Hello, my name is Annalie Carruthers, and I am the organizer of the Toyin Falola interviews. Welcome. In this series, Dr. Falola, globally renowned scholar and professor, will interview scholars and policymakers whose work and research are particularly relevant for the African continent and its peoples, including the diaspora. Dr. Falola will also discuss the scholars' most recent books with them. The ultimate goal in this series is to promote the work of great minds and to spread knowledge to the general public about current intellectual projects that these great minds are pursuing. Research themes can include, but are not limited to, the following: African affairs, African migration, religion, culture, intellectual history, development issues, theories, women's rights, disability rights, post-colonial society in Africa and other parts of the global South, and globalization. These discussions will be recorded over Zoom, and these recordings will be distributed on the Toyin Falola Network Facebook page, Twitter, and website. Thank you very much for joining us, and we hope that you enjoy.
It's my pleasure to invite Maria Saleli to come and pose some questions.
I'm from Tanzania, and we briefly talked about it in class when we were learning about the Swahili coast. So when you brought up Nyerere, I was thinking about what my parents have told me about Nyerere.
How about it?
So that was interesting. And thank you for this conversation. My first question for you is, keeping in mind this conversation about Pan-Africanism, why is cultural relativism important for Africans to adopt? And how can Africans be convinced that unity doesn't equate erasure of ethnic and national identities?
Cultural relativism is so important. So now look at economic development all over the world. We talk about Asian tigers. We talk about China. No matter how much you dislike them, they do not throw away their culture. Go into any Indian's office, whether it's a professor or somebody running a shop. They at least, even the way of worship, the way of relating to nature, to the, to the world, their understanding of their spirituality is all Asian. And no matter what you do to them, if you visit any of them, look at the architecture. It's so different. It's Asian. Their belief systems are Asian. What they learned from the West is just the technology. We threw away our culture, and we are now trying to catch up with their technology. So they sent thousands of youth to America, to Europe, to study business ethics, technology, and they went back to Asia. Now look at where they are. We are learning, but we've thrown away our culture. So we have taken their culture and using it. Sometimes we even think we can do it better than they do. No, it's not possible, because it's not our culture. This is embedded with the philosophy. Where is our African philosophy? So we have a problem. That's why cultural relativism is important. Now, Nyerere, he was one of my favorites. And that's why I studied Kiswahili. You know, because I saw the beauty of communicating in your own language. I saw the beauty of understanding certain issues in your own language. I mean, if you didn't have Christmas in your local language, it means it wasn't for you. You understand? But now we are forced to create words to fit into Christmas. I don't know about the Kiswahili word for Christmas. No, it wasn't there. So why do we think? Beg your pardon?
I said, I don't think it exists. I think we just say Christmassy.
Precisely. So you have, you know, saying Christmassy. It didn't exist. So now they have borrowed something into our system, and every December we are all forced to line up and say, why are we forced? They go to Malaysia and they have their Chinese, the Chinese are there, the Malays and all that. Everyone take their turn to celebrate their Christmas. It's their turn. It's again like India. They celebrate their annual festivals. Nobody stops them. Why can't we in Africa spend more time on our festivals? And I grew up in a community of festivals because every year you had the opportunity to go back to your village, reunite with your family, and have communal, you eat with people that you haven't met for about a year. And then when the chief calls everybody together, it's a resolution of the new development project. That is development. So the community decides that before next festival, we would have built a community center. So all those who came from various parts of the country, from the cities, bring money for us to do it. Now, it doesn't happen. When the festivals happen, they invite government officials and they tell the government officials, we want can you come and build us a place of convenience? Build the toilets, build this, build that. No. So we've now allowed our societies to be so self-dependent on governments, quote and unquote. So going back to your question, I liked Mwalimu. Mwalimu was one of my favorites. And in fact, on Tuesday, I'm speaking on a platform to celebrate Mwalimu Nyerere Day. This is a program in South Africa that I've been invited to speak on. And language. He got translated the whole of Shakespeare into Kiswahili. Although I had my disagreements on translating Shakespeare into Swahili, the idea was for him to get everybody to now think Swahili, because thinking processes are very important. When you wake up in the morning, what do you think in? Do you think in Swahili, or you think in Arabic or in English? So it's important. Kwame Nkrumah suggested, even before he was overthrown at the Organization of African Unity, that Africa should develop 6 languages. And if I remember, Swahili was one of them. That's why I was studying Swahili at the University of Ghana. Arabic was one. I think Akan was one. I think Yoruba was one. Now, all that Africa needs to do is to agree on these some languages and then spread them all over the continent. It's not easy for you to ask somebody to abandon his ethnic language, come and study. But for the sake of our continent, for the sake of our future, you should keep your own basic language, but let's learn some other language. Go to India. Not everybody is a Hindi, but Hindi became the commercial language, and everybody is speaking Hindi, just like Mandarin. You go to China, it's not the only language. We are made to think that Mandarin is the only language. It's not. They have 1,001 very different, ethnic languages. But they imposed Mandarin, and everybody is Mandarin. And even in America, in Africa, some of the universities are introducing Mandarin. Where are we? And we do not want to introduce Swahili. We do not want to introduce Akan or Yoruba in our universities. What's wrong with us? So that is the kind of consciousness I'm talking about, that this new wave of Pan-Africanism should think about languages and together agree that certain schools, and it should start from the Ministry of Education, to adopt some of these languages and learn. It's in our own interest. For now, English can be uniting us, but we should develop the indigenous language that we have, like Kiswahili. I like it.
So my final question for you is, you talk about this African conscience, and you mentioned your own experience when you started Western education and you felt alienated in some ways from your heritage, where you began to feel a little bit alienated from where you came from. So I'm wondering, I think there's been a recent resurgence of Africans across the diaspora wanting to know each other, whether it's because of each other and themselves, whether because it's social media or, things in Africa becoming popularized, or maybe it's, partly affected by efforts such as the Return to Africa movement in Ghana. My question is, what do you suggest that Africans across the diaspora, especially young people, where do you suggest they begin to regain that conscience?
It's by learning. I think that now there are more books written by Africans than any other time. Africans are writing a lot of books. We should go out and look for them. African creatives, African novelists, poets, historians. The books are coming out, and this is not just from Africa, even from the Pan-African world. So these books should be made available across, and the youth should be hungry to go after them. Again, you can get most of the books now being translated, put in audio formats and other formats. It's the hunger for this that should lead the youth. Go and look for the books and you will get them to start with. And now there are a lot of cultural programs now on YouTube. Just search and watch them, listen to some of them. It's so beautiful. Now, I'm sure you've heard about this new wave of what they call Jerusalem. This is a new song that is a creative thing from South Africa, and it's taking the whole world by storm. Now, if we understand the economic value of that composition, it's not just the song, but the dance and a whole lot. If it is monetized, it's a lot of money for South Africa. But I'm sure we're just seeing it as one of the passing phases. But this is the time, I interpret it as this is the time for Africans now to bring out what they have. Because the world is tired of what they've been seeing every day. The new things are coming out of Africa. So African culture should take the lead, in now moving the youth along with them. It can come through the creatives, it can come through innovations, it can come through entrepreneurship, it can come through, and technology is the new tool for everybody. So let all the youth use it, look for the cultural pieces that are, missing, and then bring them out. There's so much that we can give to the world.
There's a lot we can give. That was my last question, so I'm going to give the floor to Professor Falola.
Thank you, Maria. I enjoyed your question. And Nyerere is a great man. We have some other issues to cover. Let me move on to globalization, which has consequences on what you have been talking about. Since the 80s, Africans have been moving in various directions. The one we don't usually talk about is the large-scale movements within Africa itself. It's the largest, actually. And then we have the movement to Europe. In the process, there have been complications crossing the Sahara Desert, Eritreans moving towards the Mediterranean. There have been so many deaths, and Europe is changing. And some people have argued that Brexit was a product of the consequences of this migration. And we have in this part of the world, the Americas, a large number of Africans moving here. There have been great consequences, as in remittances. And we've been able to track the impact of these remittances in places like Gambia and Cape Verde. Your country, Ghana, a lot of remittances. Nigeria, at some point, 25 billion US dollars. But there are also some downside in which that represents losses for Africa. So we have from the 15th century to the 19th, we lost millions of people for muscle power, the use of their muscle power. And today is the loss of their brain power. So how can we can't stop human beings from moving? We cannot. But how can the continent benefit from Africans in Australia, in New York, in London, everywhere? Can we use this new diaspora to connect with the older Pan-Africanism? Can we turn this globalization into the agenda of African development? Can we fuse the African youth in Jamaica with those in London and in Ghana and begin to look at new possibilities? So I'm just trying to tie everything together around globalization and this current immigration of our citizens and how the continent can benefit from them.
My attitude towards immigration is that it is a direct consequence of the exploitation of the continent, moving all the resources to the West, and then just sending bits and pieces to the continent. I did an exchange program in Holland some time ago as a journalist. We had some African journalists brought into Europe, and we had some European journalists brought to Africa. I was stationed only about 6 or 7 African journalists. I was stationed in Europe, in Netherlands. Mine was to look at, they called it the North-South dialogue those days. So how was Europe impacting Africa, and what was the impact of Africans in Europe impacting Europe? And I saw cocoa beans, raw cocoa beans taken out of Ghana and taken out of the ports in Holland. Rotterdam and taken out to the various factories and to turn into chocolates and all that and all that. I followed the process. I also followed Ghanaians and other Africans who were in jail because they were illegal immigrants, and the kind of treatment they were given. I interviewed dozens of them. The question is, why do they want to go? Sometimes they want to say, okay, the government in my country is a dictator, it's this and that and that. But bottom line, economic. Now, on the other hand, I spoke to Catholic priests who were helping these illegals to gain entry into Holland. And what did they say? They said, yeah, they are helping the Ghanaians because one day, as Catholic priests who went as missionaries to Ghana, the Ghanaians were so generous. They looked after them very well. They didn't buy food. They didn't do anything. And so it's their turn to be nice to Ghanaians or Africans who are coming to Europe. Now, what is the lesson here? We on the continent have allowed our hospitality to be taken for granted. So that has also explained why so much has been taken out of the continent. Recently, the King of Belgium, or Belgium, the Prime Minister or whoever, goes to Congo and wants to go and apologize for what the Belgians did. And I said, no way. You are going empty-handed to Congo to go and apologize for what you... Here is a country where King Leopold considered the whole place as private property. And all the Africans were turned into slaves. He killed more than 4 million Africans were killed in the Congo. That is those who protested. And then he took over their lands, mined everything, brought all the wealth to Belgium. And now that this awakening is coming, they said, let me go and apologize. Just like the Pope is apologizing, or the Archbishop of Canterbury is apologizing for the role the Anglican Church played in the slave trade. Why do you go empty-handed? So if you are not going to have a Marshall Plan for these countries to also now recover, now they are still in the Congo. Don't go and annoy them by saying you apologize. So if the youth of Congo decide to enter Belgium illegally, I will support it. You see, it does not make sense. So the illegal migration, or the migration generally, was economic. Forget the political things that people said. It was all economic. And even now, they are still going, no matter the hardships. So the question, as for remittances could be 10 times. But what is happening is that the remittances are coming from only the Africans who are outside there. But really speaking, what should trickle down, what should come from those Western countries to Africa should be more than 10 times what is going on. It's significant. Yes, the Bank of Ghana or the Bank of Nigeria or the Bank of Gambia will say that so much came into it. But it's nothing compared to what Africa should be entitled to. It's really nothing. So yes, they are trying, but it's not for me it's not a big deal. It's significant, but and again, let me also mention there are some very very corrupt African leaders who have put so much money in Western banks. And these Western countries know the monies are there, but the monies are oiling their economies. Because what is oiling the economy of Switzerland? Stolen money. So if they will also realize that this is not good for Africa, they should voluntarily come to Africa and talk at the African Union and say that you are bringing back all the monies that Africans have stolen and brought to Europe. This is apart from what the Europeans themselves have stolen anyway. But so the point I'm making is that yes, remittance is significant, but they are totally not at par with what Africa should expect from the Western world, not necessarily from the Africans living there. So globalization is good. It is only a term that we participated in. I remember the debates in the 80s. We are creating a global world. Question is, where does Africa stand in that global world? Which corner of that global village is Africa? Where is African culture? You look at the internet. Look at African penetration is only about 2%. Otherwise, we are all consumers. We are consuming everything. Where is African contribution? Only about 2%. It can go up to about 5%, but that is not enough. So, and it's all because they have not allowed us even to enter. African contributions have not been recognized. African contributions have been hidden. African contributions have been destroyed. And I'm saying this part, this new Pan-African movement, is to bring out all the hidden things that Africans have done that they are not telling us. There were Africans who played a great role in the whole technology revolution. Their names are not there. So you create a global village and you ask yourself, where is Africa? We are not there. Our scholars are not there. Take a look at the map and say, how many books are in that village? How many of them are written by Africans? A little corner. So globalization is a very deceptive concept. I understand what it means, but I'm saying that it was created to give the third world a certain comfort that you also belong to the global world. But really speaking, we don't belong there. Unless we get our act together and unite as a strong force, and that we have a power. Look at Africa now, African free trade I mentioned earlier. If all Africans can trade together and have one minister of trade negotiating with China, China will set up. If we had one minister leading Africa to negotiate with the European Union, Europe will set up. The same with America. But if we continue as we are, Ghana is too small to negotiate with America. Look at the Secretary of State of America. If he meets the Minister of Foreign Affairs from Ghana, I'm sure it's like some little student, right? But let Africa come together and say, this is our foreign minister, representing the whole of Africa. You see the kind of respect they will give us. This afternoon, I was listening to a program by another African, I think he's Nigerian. It's called Wallace Williams. And he's saying, we shouldn't call it the United States of Africa. Let's call it the United Nations of Africa. Let's keep our nationalities, but let's bundle together and also have one government, a federal government, and let the federal government move and meet all these big powers. with all the rest of the nations behind. Say, you are representing us. And let's see if the world will not change. The world is going to change.
We started with Pan-Africanism. I want us to end with Pan-Africanism.
Thank you. I said that we have begun a movement called the Pan-African Heritage World to start bringing together all the bits and pieces of our heritage that we have lost. And I also said that we need to have certain meetings at certain levels. While the governments are meeting, scholars should be meeting, and creatives should also be meeting. It's again, manufacturers, talking about some of the things that the labeling and so on, should also be meeting. We should not be looking at the differences that we are so much concerned with now. And all our meetings should be characterized by identifying what binds us. Right now, you're talking about Bollywood and Nollywood. And you come to Ghana, although large numbers of people watch films from there, you also have a certain circle that says, oh, why are you patronizing Nigerian films? Again, it's the part of the mindset. But go to East Africa, they are watching Nigerian films. Go to South Africa, they are watching Nigerian films. So it's a good thing. But the point I'm making is, let the creatives also meet and talk. And what are the challenges that they are facing in their industry? Rather than who is doing much better, if peers all get together and say that let's have an Africa Film Award and choose the best film, best actors, best producers, that is the time we can see we are working. Because then we are recognizing the strength in each and every, but everyone now, it's like competing. Yeah, competition is good. But when we get together and we have a Pan-African Film Award, like, you have in the US and elsewhere, then you are identifying. Again, you talk about cultures. Similarly, if we hold cultural festivals together, if the organizations work together, if they agree on certain times of the year when they should do this and that and that. A week ago, again, I was invited to participate in a discussion on Heritage Day in South Africa, which was beautiful. So we can have a South Africa Heritage Day, Nigeria Heritage Day, Ghana Heritage Day, Congo Heritage Day, Tanzania Heritage Day. We are learning. It all starts with a consciousness, really. Some of us have closed our minds that if it is not from my ethnic group, nothing. No, it can't work that way. So the consciousness should affect all sectors, all the various levels that compose the society. And you cannot have one group meeting and another fighting. Film is a very potent communicative force that if we all decide that we have a Pan-African, can you imagine a Pan-African film festival, Pan-African film awards, and then we set criteria on what kind of themes will win an award, what kind of subject areas will do this, what level of production, and so on and so forth. We'll be getting somewhere. But now, every African wants to go and win an award in Europe. No. Your standards will not get there. It's like sending an African to Miss World. The standards are not set by you. So if we can recognize, our worth And I mean it by saying recognizing our worth. We have a lot of intelligent people on the continent and outside. We can tap on them for all the solutions. Look at our African universities. Even certification, accreditation, they want to look over their shoulder to see whether Oxford has approved it or not. I beg your pardon. There are top intellectuals coming out of this continent. Why can't they meet and establish their own standards? The same cuts across, as I'm saying. So, in short, to your question, it all comes out of consciousness, but it's not enough to say I'm conscious of it. Action. We should take steps to move. Students should be moving. In the Nkrumah days, even until about 10 years ago, we had a strong Association of African Students headquarters in Accra. Very strong. So all students had their headquarters here from all parts of Africa in Ghana. They would hold their annual meetings, and you saw the dynamism in the youth. Now it doesn't happen anymore. Let's have other trading organizations, other youth movements also having their own meetings. So this consciousness is good, but we should not make it stale. It's something that should move. Now we have technology. You don't even need to travel to hold a conference for 1,000 people. Let's use it to bring our interest together, to bring our heritage together, to bring our history together. And some of us have begun. We hope that you, the younger ones, will also follow.
On that note, let me thank you so much for this interview. We've covered the history of Pan-Africanism. We're very grateful. We covered great personalities. You reminded us of the role of Nkrumah, Nyerere, and others. We've covered the role of the young generation who will move us forward. Issues of policies have been touched upon, and what a new generation should do, you've mentioned. I want to thank all our crew and members for today. Obina Kara, Maria Selale, Mitchell Smith, Sarah Diallo, Wale Gazal. Thank you so much, sir. And we are going to interview you again, maybe in Ghana this time around. And that interview will focus just on the museum, so that as you develop this museum, we bring it to the world attention. Part of my own mission is to create provenance for these activities, because the more people know about it, the more we can draw them in, and the more we can ask them to invest intellectually and invest in their capital. My crew, please bid him farewell and thank him for me.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this productive conversation.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you all. We'll have the opportunity of meeting again another time. Okay.
Pelio chacolacheto, tu me choita chi tu same, makosa yetu.